Texoma Exotics presents Not Another Reptile podcast.
It's called EPIC, the Exotic Pet Industry Conference, and it's free to register at epic.live. EPIC is over 20 special guests across 16 sessions covering industry trends, marketing, branding, podcasting, and YouTube. EPIC is for pet keepers and breeders. It's for gecko and invert lovers. It's for snake and spider lovers. EPIC is for anyone who enjoys these amazing animals. Did I mention it's free? Register now at epic.live.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
We're here. We made it to another Wednesday.
Yay.
What I wait for all week long.
What do you dread all week long?
Oh no, I don't dread it. I don't dread it. I look forward to this all the time. And we got some people in the chat. Should I call them out in the chat?
Absolutely.
Let's see who we got going on here. We got Dustin from Clowning Around Pythons. He's been
Dustin.
here.
Hey,
Dustin, how's
Dustin.
it going? Thanks for the snakes. They're doing great. We got Sammy.
Hey, Sammy.
What's going on, Sammy?
Who's
What's
baby
up?
buddy, Sammy? That's what I want to know.
Who's baby buddy? That sounds kind of sweet.
What's up, Mike?
Hey,
Mike from M&K.
Feeling better, buddy?
We got Casey.
Hey,
Mr.
Casey.
Chatted with Casey a little bit. Might be trying to get him on the show if he's up for it. So it looks like that's who we got in here so far.
Yay.
So how you guys doing?
Great.
How's the week?
It's been
Been a
good.
week.
Yeah,
It's
it's been a good week though so far.
Yeah. Let's
And
hear
I got
about
to
it.
make it to the NARBC Saturday. Got to see some of my friends. Got to pick up some stuff for the enclosures and got back home safe and sound. So can't ask for anything more.
Nice, nice. Jamie, what you been up to? You're all dressed up. Are you coming from church?
No,
No.
I dressed up for you guys. No. Let's see, this week I ordered my stuff to vend. So I have my display cases in, and I ordered my backdrop and my table covers, my table runners today or this week. So those should be coming in sometime in April. Sorry, I got those windows open because it's warm in my reptile room today. My dog is just barking. So that's what that was. But yeah, so I ordered all our stuff to vend. And the first show that we're going to be vending is here in Knoxville in May. So
You excited? You excited? How many snakes have you got to vend?
So I bought 2 displays and I probably will have that many. So, when you first get into buying reptiles, I bought some snakes that were pretty, but they may not fit the direction that we're going. I don't regret those purchases. Those purchases help me figure out which direction I want to go.
No, I
So-
get it.
Banana. Banana.
No, I still keep my bananas. I got a lot of bananas. We'll always have bananas. I
Bananas
am
are
bananas
great.
for bananas.
Bananas are
But-
great. Almost as great as our next guest. Holly, who did we get on the show tonight?
Well, it was hard getting him on here because of me. That's my bad. But we have Mr. Pete. How's it going, Pete?
Hey, doing pretty good. Excited to be here, guys.
Yeah, this is Peter Williams from Peter Williams Reptiles. Don't give him any crap because he's Canadian. He can't help it.
Hey, you
That's
guys
just
know
how-
we're at war now, our two countries, eh? So,
No, tariffs all over the place.
yeah.
Damn syrup is going to go through the roof.
Oh well,
Hey, Jen, how's
How
it
are we
going?
doing?
good. For the record, my wife is American, just so you guys know. So I love America.
Okay, we'll forgive you
Yeah.
So what have you got in your background there? I see it looks like over your right shoulder, you've got a nice,
Guess I could tilt this up a little bit.
oh, you want to believe the truth is out there.
Yeah, I spend most of my spare time looking into that sort of thing. So,
but you look into aliens. You believe in aliens, do you?
oh, I'm quite certain of it. Yeah.
Have you ever had an alien? I know this has nothing to do with reptiles, but maybe reptilians. Have you had
Sure.
any experiences with
No,
extraterrestrial?
I've never seen a thing, nothing. But just since 2017, when they kind of started to blow the lid off it, and there's, you know, officials taking it seriously, and, you know, Congress people and all that stuff, then it's like, oh, okay, well, and then you start listening and reading stories, and, you know, okay, yeah, I've heard of that before, and then you pay more attention, and you start really digging into it, and you're like, is everybody that's ever told a story about encountering aliens, are they all liars? Every single one of them. It just, the more information you absorb, the harder it is to deny it. So I'm just trying. That's what I'm doing, is just trying to absorb all the information until something official comes. But yeah.
So is Parliament, are they kind of changing their tune on the aliens? Because, you know, it's starting to come out in the Congress, and
yeah,
in the States we have these whistleblowers, and then we have these.
It's
congressional
pretty
inquiries.
US centric. There's and, you know, even though that's probably, if it's all real, that's probably the most important thing that will ever happen in any of our lifetimes. But if you talk to the average person, and certainly the average Canadian right now, people will just say they have bigger problems to worry about, or, you know, why do I care about aliens if I can't pay my rent or sell my snakes or whatever, right? But it's like, if it's real, it's way more important than any of that. So
even ball pythons, I think, more important than ball pythons. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. But for now, I'll keep going with not just the ball pythons, but all pythons of all sorts. That's my jam.
Yeah.
So
Very nice.
For now.
Well, Travis, it's that time.
What time? What are you talking about? You turned me into a lawyer.
Dang.
I did.
Look good.
I did.
Yeah, I look good. I don't know if I'd be that thin in real life in a suit, but keep that one. All right, so I got a couple different things here. We were talking about Jeff Leibowitz, the guy that likes to get bitten by his venomous reptiles.
Mm-hmm.
Got bit by an inland taipan because he was poking it with his finger, literally. He said, went to the hospital, somehow or another survived, and just got another inland taipan and was poking it with his finger today on Instagram. So I got a feeling that I'd place a bet on the fact that he might wind up back in the hospital, except I think his stay will be shorter. But in light of all that, you know, let's talk about some venomous reptiles. Now, I'm not going to do venomous snakes because that's tired. Everybody does that. Venomous lizards are almost as tiring. So I'm going to start there, and then I'm going to deviate a little bit. So I'm going to ask you guys a question, and we're going to start with Peter. For venomous lizards, outside of or getting rid of the Gila monster and the Mexican beaded lizard, what other lizard is venomous?
All monitor lizards. Anything Varanidae.
Damn, I asked the wrong guy a question. Which monitor? He's right. Which monitor lizard has venom that is medically significant to human beings?
Komodo.
Komodo dragon.
I couldn't think of the name of it. I was like, it's the big one, but I didn't want to just say, hey, it's the big one.
So I read up on the Komodo dragon, and before I read this today, I thought the Komodo dragon just had folds of skin in its jaw that promoted bacterial growth of specific types of bacteria that like really, really mess your shit up. That's true. But in addition to that, it has two other actual types of venom that it produces. One of which dysregulates your blood pressure by shutting down that part of your kidney function. And the other one completely disrupts any kind of coagulation capability that your blood has. So in addition to the bacterial infection, which is pretty, there's like, I couldn't pronounce half of them. There's like 7 or 8 bacteria that are only found in the jaw of a Komodo dragon that like just literally cause sepsis within 8 hours, like total complete system shutdown. But in addition to that, you've got those other 2 venoms that completely dysregulate your blood pressure, drop it through the floor, and stop all of your ability to coagulate anything. So that's pretty crazy.
Doesn't sound very fun.
No, it doesn't sound very fun at all. I'm not going to go to Komodo and track them down like all the other guys. You know, it seems like it's just white people that go and do this. You don't see any.
I'd still love to see one in the wild.
You don't see any of the brothers going and pulling the tail of a Komodo dragon. You only see like dorky white dudes doing it. So.
Well, I guess that'd be me.
Yeah. I'd do it if I was younger. But related to that, what do you guys know what mammals are venomous?
I do.
I bet you do.
Go for it.
Platypus.
Platypus is venomous.
Yep.
That's right. It's got spikes on its back legs with venom sacs. And
they lay eggs too.
And they lay eggs. I love the platypus.
Yeah, they are echinoderms or something to that effect. There's like the platypus, the spiny echidna, and one other mammal, Australian mammal that they literally lay eggs.
Yeah.
So you're right. Yeah, the platypus has venom in venom sacs on its rear legs, and they've got these 2 big spikes that are just made for defense. So that they're attached to. But the other ones are there's a whole cadre of shrews that are venomous.
No.
There are about 15 or 16 different subspecies or species of shrew, and they're all venomous. Like not necessarily to people, but highly toxic to the things that they go after.
I've never heard that.
Yeah. And so some of those, we're talking like the Hispanolan solenodon, northern short-tailed shrew, the Eurasian water shrew, southern short-tail. I mean, all shrews seem to be poisonous. And then they also include vampire bats in that, or venomous, I should say. They also include vampire bats because they have an incredibly strong anticoagulant that can apparently cause you some problems if you get, bitten by enough vampires.
For the purposes of keeping the blood flowing, I would assume.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And then lastly, since we've got a Canadian on the show, we're going to quiz him real quick on maple syrup. I just got a couple quick questions on maple syrup, and we'll see if he's fit to the task.
All right.
Number 1, what is the process of collecting sap from maple trees and boiling it down to make syrup? What is that called?
A specific term for just making maple syrup?
I knew this term because we make maple syrup in Northern New York.
I know generally the place you do it is called a sugar shack, but I'm drawing a blank on that one.
It's called sugaring.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's strike 1 on your. You get 3 strikes, you move to America, buddy.
Well, like I said, my wife is American, so maybe it'll be in the cards here someday.
Yeah. What is the name for the forest of sugar maple trees where sap is harvested?
Sugar bush.
Oh, ding, ding. He got it right. Still alive. Last question. Oh, let's see. What is the name of the building where maple syrup is evaporated?
Yeah. Sugar shack. Yeah.
Sugar shack or sugar house. All right.
Yeah.
You get to stay in Canada.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I've got a good buddy that does the old maple syrup thing, and then he gives me a bottle. I supply rats to him, so he gives me a bottle every spring. So that'll be coming probably next time I see him. Actually, he'll be giving me that bottle of fresh homemade maple syrup.
Nice.
Hey, Stan.
All right. So he made it through that, so I guess he can stay on the show.
That's good. Jamie, are you ready?
Sure. Okay, so I have one joke for you guys tonight. How does Lady Gaga prefer her steak?
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
On a
it's going to be
dress.
so obvious. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
It's got to be the name of one of her songs. I just don't know any of her songs.
right.
What's the one? Poker Face.
That's like the only song that I know. Yeah.
Are you ready?
Ready.
She likes it raw.
Oh, yeah,
Raw.
Of course.
She eats her steak raw.
Oh my goodness, that's a great one.
There you
Oh
go.
my goodness.
Oh, jeez.
Good
You
old
guys
Now-
got me singing
Off the
for the
air.
world.
We need to pause
Nobody
that
needed to hear
and
that.
make a good clip of Jamie singing.
Right.
That was, thanks for that. I'm going to tell my wife that joke. Oh, no, she's
Yeah.
watching the show. Never mind.
So Pete,
Oh.
tell us about the animals you keep.
Okay. So, mostly ball pythons, right? Like probably, actually, it's is getting smaller and smaller every year only because the collection is just growing in all different directions. But probably 80% of the snakes I keep are ball pythons. And then I got blood and short-tail pythons, all three species. So Borneo short-tails, red, Malaysian blood pythons, and Sumatran short-tails, the black blood pythons. Carpets, Bredl's pythons, and Irian Jaya, which they don't call them that anymore. I think they call them Papuan carpet pythons, Woma pythons, Angolan pythons, reticulated pythons, green tree pythons.
Dang, all the pythons.
Yeah, Maclots pythons. Look at the wall of racks is right across from me here, so I can cheat. But in addition to that, I think that's all snakes. I do have like one Brazilian rainbow boa. I'm not just as a pet, really. I'm not much of a boa guy. But then in addition to that, the real hard work is the tortoises. I've got 6 sulcata tortoises and 2 redfoots. 3 of the sulcatas are full size adults. So that takes up the most amount of time and the most amount of money to care for those guys.
I wouldn't have thought that. What goes into taking care of one of those?
The problem is the Canadian problem. So, right, if I was in like Arizona or Texas or Florida or anywhere in the southern portion of the U.S. where you could keep a sulcata or any tortoise for that matter outside year round, then it would be a lot cheaper. But I have to, I'm now sitting in my purpose-built reptile building, which there's off to my side over here, there's a whole room that is the winter tortoise room, which is not even like, that's enough for my adult tortoises now. And then that's like the big summer project is building another small building, which some of the tortoises are going to have to live in next winter. So it's just like when you have a 150 pound bulldozer that needs to be warm and eats a lot and poops a lot and needs special light. When you have a bunch of them, then it's hard to manage that in the Canadian winter, which is half the year.
Yeah.
My daughter just bought one this last weekend in Dallas.
A sulcata?
Yep.
But you are in
It's
the South?
tiny. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm right on the border of Texas and Oklahoma. So
okay. So like when it's an adult, you guys will be able to keep it outside.
Outside, there'd be like 3 months we wouldn't be able to, but the rest of the time, yeah. Once it gets old enough, it's just teeny little thing.
Yeah,
right
now they do grow fast. I've because having the adult sulcatas, I never dreamed that I would be able to breed them because of them being inside for half the year. And last year I accidentally bred them, and that's something I learned too, is that a female sulcata tortoise, just from like one breeding, will lay 4 to 5 clutches of eggs, which could be as many as 20 eggs. That's part of the problem, right? That's why sulcatas are so prolific. Like, because they're so prolific, they're so prevalent in the hobby. and that's why they're so cheap. You know, you could, like, I don't know what you guys paid, but I've certainly seen them at the shows in the States for, you know, $50 or below, right? Because people,
Oh wow.
you have a huge colony of them, or herd, I suppose. I think the actual word for a group of tortoises is a creep, but I would say herd. But if you have that in the South, and then you're getting dozens and dozens of eggs from multiple females, you could in very short order produce like 200, 300 baby sulcatas. And so
Wow.
I did incubate some of the eggs from the first clutch that my female laid, but just, you know, I'm a reptile breeder, and I love sulcatas, so I had to get that out of my system, and I hatched out 3 babies, and I'm keeping those 3 babies. And so they've passed their first birthday now, and the eggs are perfectly spherical, and they're almost the exact same size as a ping pong ball. And now those tortoises are probably so just crossing their 1-year birthday. They're probably 7 inches long now. So going from, 1.5 2 inches size of a ping pong ball to 7 inches in just a year. And then as soon as you get them outside, they start growing crazy fast. So it sneaks up.
So
He's
hers
got
is
a
like
good picture.
half the size of a tennis ball. Cut it
Okay.
in half, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So freaking cute. But I would love to pick your brain after the show on the diet and everything, because I'm all new to it. So
He's got really some really cool pictures of when they were babies and a year from now on his Instagram. You guys should go check it out. It's pretty cool.
oh yeah, make sure to check him out.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Mr. Phil? How's it going? And I wanted to say hi to Stan and Patrick real quick. Who else did I miss? Tara. I said hi to Jen. Okay, we're good.
So, Peter, it sounds like you've got a huge establishment there. How many snakes do you have? Like, what is I know you built something recently, didn't you? You build a building?
Yep. So that's where I'm sitting right now, is my new reptile building. So I've been doing this since I was like 16 years old. That was way back in 2006. So this is my 19th year in the hobby. And that was always the dream, was to have the dedicated, because, even back in 2006, I think it was 2005 that YouTube started. So, shortly after there was, the original, like Brian Barczyk, Snake Bites TV, there was the reptile guys started making videos, and I was seeing these guys having these dedicated facilities on YouTube, and just as a kid, right? And that was always the dream. And now, almost 20 years later, I've finally done it. So the building that we had built here it's not that big. It's bigger than, the tiny room I had in my little farmhouse. The building's 20 by 40. And then there's one wall in the middle. Like I was saying earlier, I have the tortoise / storage room on one side. And so the main snake room, which I'm in now, is 20 by 30. So in that I have like 5 big ARS racks, which have the ball pythons. That's all on one wall. And then I've got kind of a hatchling wall. So in terms of ball pythons, obviously it varies depending on what time of year and all hatchlings for sale and whatever, but probably I oscillate between 300 and 400 ball pythons. And then most of the other species are, just a pair of this, or like for the blood pythons, I do have I think 12 blood pythons across all 3 species. And then I did, speaking of my Instagram, anybody that wants to go check it out, I think it's probably my most recent post, but I just got a huge clutch of blood python eggs.
Oh, wow. I saw that. The female was gravid.
Yeah.
I didn't know you had gotten the eggs yet.
Yeah. So she laid the eggs, and there was just one tiny little slugger in there. And then the rest, it was 20 good fertile eggs. So the blood python population in the building is about to jump. But yeah, all the other stuff like the specialty species, there's kind of just a pair of this, a pair of that, and all that, right? So
send me an egg along with the the angry balls that you're sending.
Well, you know, like I was telling you earlier, an export, like normally it's all about waiting, right? But I don't think we'll be waiting another 2 months. So that's like the eggs have been incubating for like, I think 2 days. So they probably got a good 52 days left to go. So hopefully we can get your stuff off to you sooner than that. But
yeah, that'd be nice. Come on, Canada, get it together.
Yeah, that was my next question about shipping. I mean, you being there, do you have a lot of customers in the United States?
No, not at all. And so but there's plenty of Canadian breeders that do. That's right. But there's me personally, I've always had good luck just selling stuff within Canada, which is not that easy to do, but it depends on the, you know, I'm obviously I hatch stuff out. I'm always keeping my best stuff and holding it back. So the stuff I'm selling is just, you know, byproducts or stuff I got duplicates of, stuff that I'm holding back, right? So that means the stuff I'm selling is, you know, in the lower price range, right? And that it only, as Travis knows, it only starts to become feasible to do exports to not just to the States, but to any country when you get into higher dollar animals. I would say kind of like the minimum that, you know, people start to take it reasonably serious at would be like $1,000 animal, but anything under that is it's going to cost you. Yeah, it's going to cost you twice as much. And that happens all the time. Like, it's starting to get better with Morph Market. I have like 10 different spots where an American customer, before I even reply to their message, they should see that I'm a Canadian breeder, but still happens all the time that they don't. And they'll message me about like a $200. And keep in mind, I'm talking about $200 Canadian here. So for you guys, that's probably, and I think the exchange just got further and further apart today. Like 200 Canadians, probably like 120 US dollars. Right. So, somebody, you know, in the States will message me about a $200 snake and be like, hey, that's like perfect. I'd love to grab this. And it's like, okay, man, well, it's going to cost you $1,000 to get it to you. So, and because it's $200, it's a snake that's not that rare. And you probably have like 6 or 7 breeders in your state alone that are producing this exact same animal. So why don't you just go buy it from them? I'd love to take your money, but it's not going to be worth it. Right. So I don't do a lot of that import export sort of thing, but a lot of Canadians do, though. That works for them.
So, what Billy from Mutation Creation does, kind of a quarterly shipment or something like that, where he gets as many orders as he can together. And and that does end up being, if you're a larger breeder and you have a larger customer base and repeat customers and stuff, then it does, like you and I have discussed it, the more snakes are going out in that shipment and to the most amount of people, then everybody starts to save a little bit of money, right? So, but that's the hurdle that can be hard to overcome. Like, if one person approaches me and says, hey, I would love to buy this pair of snakes here, I have to give you a price of what it's going to cost for me to export that just to you, right? Which is the cost prohibitive high number. But then if somebody else comes along a week later and says, hey, I would also like to buy these snakes here, well, then it suddenly just got cheaper for both of you. But then it's hooking that first customer to start the chain. That's the hard part, right? Yeah.
So
I tried to import Angolans from Germany, but I had to import like 12.
Yeah.
And even
hey, who doesn't want 12 Angolans?
Yeah. and they were unsexed, and even with the
Why? Why were they unsexed? It's not like a green tree python where you can't sex it right out of the egg.
I don't know.
You can sex it in the egg. Like, just find the tail. Like,
I don't know. I mean, I tried. I didn't try super hard, but I tried to kind of crowdsource it a little bit and say, even because you have the export fees from Europe, and then you have the import fees, in the United States. And altogether, that made the cost per snake about $1,200, which is like at the very, very high end of Angolan price range. And so that's
not a crazy price for one Angolan, but when you have to commit to buying a dozen of them, then
and I was fine with that because I wanted to get the genetics.
Sure.
But I didn't want to go and spend, however much it was, $16,000, and then have all these snakes on my hands and not have anybody else that was interested. So I just wanted to, if I could have got like 6 people that were like, yeah, I'll get one.
Yeah.
Then I probably would have done it. But
and it's the exact same problem, right? If you want to do that, it becomes cheaper for you to do it if you do get those people that jump on the shipment with you. But I mean, that's whether you're shipping stuff out or shipping stuff in, that's why it's good to have friends in this hobby, right?
Yeah.
So.
And then, like for you, I've never tried so hard to get a pair of pied animals.
Right. Well, we're gonna get them to you. We're gonna get them. I don't know. Today was the big tariff day. I've been so busy I didn't look at the news today, but that's a possibility, right? That animals could be caught, like reptiles crossing the border could be caught in the crossfire of all this tariff nonsense.
That's crazy.
Well, for Canada, it's just 10% right now, right? So that's
and with the tariffs that Canada is putting on U.S. goods, they're specifically targeting red states because those are the guys that voted. I mean, a lot of people voted for whoever they wanted, right? But probably most of the guys in Kentucky, where all the bourbon is coming out of, they probably voted for Trump. So suddenly we don't want to buy your bourbon anymore.
Was Parliament going to have a bunch of pissed off Canadians though if they can't get their bourbon?
But that's the thing, is there's plenty of other alcohol from other places. So most Canadians are happy to never drink U.S. bourbon again. And unfortunately, that if it all disappeared tomorrow, the damage unfortunately is long done now, that most Canadians are pretty bitter about this. So it's going to be a long road to recovery for American businesses, but hopefully it doesn't affect the reptile market too much.
We need to take a little break here to play our sponsor video, and we'll be right back.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to accelerate your breeding plans, use Charlie at Grey Rider Reptiles for fast and reliable shed testing services. His testing services offer both speed and accuracy, ensuring that you receive dependable results in a timely manner. As a valued customer, he is happy to offer you a 15% discount on your purchase. Visit www.shedtesting.com and use code Texoma15 during checkout to take advantage of the offer. Limit of 2 users per customer.
Meet Sammy, a ball python breeder with a specialty in the pied project. When you meet him, don't be shy to ask questions about his snakes, as he loves to share his knowledge and experience with others. He's a friendly and approachable guy who is always happy to chat with fellow reptile enthusiasts. Whether you are a seasoned snake breeder or just starting out, Sammy is the perfect person to connect with if you are interested in the pied project. So keep a lookout for that hot pink shirt.
Python Suzy. He's been professionally fondling pythons since April 2024. Before that, it was just for fun. He has balls, Angolans, and soon he'll have dwarf Burmese pythons in his collection. He loves dark clowns, leopards, and long walks on the beach with sunsets. He thinks orange dream and blackhead are salt and pepper on a good steak. hit him up. He'll talk about just about anything.
Sure.
That's a good ad there.
Yeah, I got killer media and killer narration on that.
I try.
Okay, so Phil says, I'm from one, am not sorry. Oh, Canada sucks. Yeah. Just saying. Canada and England are pretty lost.
Not nice.
Wow.
So real
And
fast
I wonder
forward,
why we're at war.
I'm going to talk a little bit about what's happening at shedtesting.com
Yes.
because he's got a lot of cool stuff happening there. So the lace test is out. So if you guys are looking to get your lace tested, it's out and up on the website. The Monarch test is out. There's 2 lines of Monarch. They are compatible. From the Herp and Harbins, they said that the American line of Monarch is darker than the European line, but they are both compatible with each other, so you don't have to worry about them being incompatible like albino and stuff. There are, so those are what of the new tests. The upcoming tests that are really close to being done is Cypress, Disco, and Vanilla. Those should be out here pretty soon. And the tests that they're working on, that's on the horizon and they're just starting to work on, it's Red Stripe, Tri-Stripe, Mandarin, and MJ Xanthic. They also have the colubrid testing up and running right now on the website, or colubrid sex testing up and running on the website. And they're also working on getting monitor and gecko sex testing done and sex testing for other pythons such as green tree pythons and other pythons. They're working on those types of sex testing. So that's what's happening at Charlie. So go to shedtesting.com for all your shed testing and sexing requirements or needs. He's got you covered.
And don't forget to use the code Texoma15.
That one right there.
It's
That's
here.
The first
It's
I've heard
underneath.
about two different lines of Monarch.
2 different lines of Monarch. That is breaking news. You heard it here second, probably.
Wow.
Yep. But they're compatible. So it's just like Yellow Belly and Fire and Ultramel. They're compatible.
And complex.
Yeah.
That is really interesting. Huh.
All right. Well, all right. So you have shed testing in Canada, Peter?
Yeah. Funny enough, I still have not shed tested a single snake ever, but it's as readily available here. It's a little more expensive, but then, like I was saying earlier about the exchange, when you do the math, it's not that different, but it's, I had a bunch of stuff last season that stuff I held back that was, 50% pos head this and stuff I should have tested. But then it's kind of like when it first became readily available to us, there was a bunch of maybe sub-adults that I had that I kind of was like midway through the breeding season that I was like actively pairing these snakes. And it's like, well, I kind of thought to myself, well, if I find out tomorrow that this snake is not het pied or this one's not het toffee, like it's not really going to change anything I'm doing for this season, because it's like, if it was a pos het pied, like female, let's say, I probably was breeding it to a pied or 100% het pied of some sort. So I was going to get my answer anyway in those first clutches. And if I missed and the female wasn't a het, then I would have got my new holdback in that clutch. So there's still stuff that I should be shed testing, but I don't know. I'm sometimes I just feel like I'm a little too lazy to do it, or by the time,
Never know. You might have a hidden golden head in there somewhere.
Well, there's definitely, I have some like pos triple heads and quad heads that I really should test, but because I've been in this so long, I don't have anything against shed testing, but it does remove a certain element of, like, it takes a little bit of the magic away, right? Of some of the newer people in the hobby, the hitting a visual from a pos het to pos het pairing is like it already feels like Christmas morning when you're cutting a clutch of eggs and, seeing what you got. But when you get a visual from pass to pass, it's like winning the lottery, right? And that just doesn't happen if you already know the hand you're playing, right? So,
Right.
but it certainly has its purpose and is very
Sure.
useful for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Now you've been in this, you said, for 19 years.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're what, like 29?
I'm 34.
Okay.
I'll be turning 35 this year. Yeah.
All right. So you started this when you were a kid.
I was 16 when I
16.
started. Yeah.
And you knew right off the bat, you're like, I want to do this as business. Like, this is my dream.
Yeah.
You never wavered from that, it sounds like, right?
In retrospect, looking back on the last 19 years of my life, I feel incredibly lucky that I just knew I had this world put in front of me at a young age, and I thought, this is it, man. And it's even just with the ball pythons, and also keep in mind, when I started, the variety of genes that we had was like, okay, we've got albinos and pieds and cinnamons and mojaves and lessers and pastels and spiders. And that was about it. So I've seen this whole evolution over the years, but I still, even with that limited amount of genes, I thought that it felt endless to me, that I could pursue what I want to do with this for the rest of my life. And then it's turned into what it's turned into now. But then as I started getting into these other species, it feels even more endless, right? And it's like I feel like every new species I produce is kind of another notch on the belt, and you can graduate to more and more difficult species, kind of climb this ladder, right? Maybe some people want to climb like a ladder in an office setting or something like that, but I like climbing this ladder, and I hope, before I die, to get to, maybe, to me, I think the top rung of the ladder would be to breed like Boland's pythons.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And that, like, I don't know if I'll ever get there. It's certainly, I don't even have Boland's pythons, but like, it's certainly a goal that, that's with the Boland's especially, that's like the last species that hasn't been unlocked, right? And there are guys that are producing Boland's pythons, but nobody with the kind of success that like the average person, all
Right.
of us breed ball pythons with, like,
Yeah.
so I would love, by the time I'm checking out of this world, that I would love to accomplish that, and hope that it's been figured out by then, right? So that's what I get out of this hobby, right?
No, I hear you on the Boland's. That's kind of like my goal snake, like where I want to get to as far as breeding goes.
Sure.
And I looked at this being brand new in 2024. It's like, the ball python market is like jumping on a freight train going 950 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And you better have some equipment, AKA money and knowledge. I mean, you can have money and no knowledge, and your money's gone like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you really have to have things like really squared away to get into this. And I looked at it, especially when I went to Tinley, and it kind of solidified it to me, is that you've got to have some differentiation, in species that like have different business models to them.
Sure. Yeah.
Just to kind of help, pay the bills, so to speak, have where your normal is worth a significant amount of money because it's a rare snake. It's, it's a CITES Appendix 1, or it's a Lasiac or whatever. And so, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm seeing now in like this industry, is like a lot of the breeders that have been like specifically into ball pythons are starting to get into chameleons.
Sure.
or, some of the other hog, the hognose is pretty, it seems like a lot of ball python breeders also do hognose.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but I'm starting to see like other breeders get into, other species. Like I differentiated right off the bat into a couple of different species that I felt like had different cost models in terms of pricing, and then, slightly different business models, so that I can kind of recycle some of that, I would call it easier money on a higher end snake that all I have to do is worry about husbandry.
Yeah.
And cycle that into buying higher end ball pythons, and just, hopefully they would feed each other and grow.
There's a kind of and that's very similar to what I'm doing too. Right. But then there is a slight problem too, where if you could see like a graph, or, all the money I've spent on snakes over these 19 years, if I just funneled it all into one species like ball pythons, I'd probably be further ahead on that species. But then when you split, any person only has so much money, right? So if I'm interested in getting blood pythons and Woma pythons and Angolans and all that stuff, like, then you're spreading yourself financially thinner across those. But then you kind of just have to, if you don't want to lose money, at least you have to hope that you're able to be successful with those species that you've spread yourself across. That, like you said, some of them have different kind of business models, or the market for those animals is moving at a different speed, right? So it's all relative. It all comes out in the wash. But and really, regardless of finances, at the end of the day, I'm just interested in all these, and that's why I kind of focus specifically on pythons. I'm fascinated just with, like, there's so many. I mean, you brought up hognose and the whole colubrid world, and lizards, and I like the tortoises as well, right? But it's in terms of breeding, I'm just fascinated with pythons and all the different looks, why they look the way why does the Angolan have the beaded scales and the ball python has regular scales, and why do some of them have keeled scales, and why do Woma pythons and black-headed pythons not have heat pits on the front of their face, but they're still pythons? And so it's all these little was it the differences in breeding them, right? Like, and maybe this species I have to always put the female into the male's enclosure, stuff like that, right? So I'm fascinated. I'm just fascinated by keeping them and breeding them and observing them, right? So but at the end of the day, you don't want to lose money.
If you're going to work with animals, you definitely need to have the passion for it, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure.
That, and it's getting to where working snake shows, you have to have different species, or you're not going to get into that show.
At least here in the States. I don't know how it is in Canada.
Yeah.
Do you do any shows?
Yeah.
Just had a show this past weekend in Toronto, and it did not go very well. I'll be honest. I didn't sell anything.
Pythons on that show.
I brought one hybrid, an Angolan hybrid clutch mate to the ones that you're getting. But yeah, no, I didn't sell. Not only did I not sell a single snake, which has never happened to me in 19 years, but I didn't even come close to a sale. And I don't know, it was perplexing, man. The attendance was good. A lot of people came to the table and talked, and I've had some bad shows before, but where you certainly still definitely lose money when you factor in, gas and hotel and all this stuff, right? But that was the first time I've never sold any snakes. So, regardless of what's going on with the market, like, that was, if I do this long enough, that was bound to happen eventually, right? But it just so happens to have happened to me this past weekend. And, like, man, the drive home from a show like that, especially when you're by yourself, you're just like, oh man, I'm gonna quit this hobby. This sucks. Everybody sucks. And But then, you get back and you unpack everything and everything kind of gets back to normal. And you're like, okay, we got any ovulations today or some prelays? And you kind of just forget about it. Right. But I love doing the show. And that's why it's a bummer to end a show like that, where you're packing up all the same animals you brought. But like, I got to hang out with all my buddies for the weekend and, shoot the shit.
There's value there.
What's that?
There's value there.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's, and I'm guilty of this too. Like, I complain about not selling anything, but one of my closest friends in the hobby, Michael Graham, Blackheart Exotics, he was vending right next to me. And, I haven't bought a snake at a show on impulse, just on a whim in years and years. And there were certainly snakes that he had on his table that, I was like, oh yeah, that's nice. And we looked at and talked about or whatever. But like half the time, or more than half the time, when I'm at a show or talking to friends or whatever, it is way more about the people and hanging out and talking about, even though everything's still so reptile centric, that I'm hanging out with these people to talk about reptiles and like, hey man, what clutch are you, are you most excited about this year and stuff like that. But, so yeah, me not making any sales is like, this is somewhat I'm part of the problem as well, by not even like, I'll think about a person that was at the show and be like, did I even look down at their displays and see what they had available, or did we just talked and then I went back to my table, right? So that's a huge part of doing the shows, that I get a tremendous amount of enjoyment out of just seeing my friends, right? So
yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
I know. I was at Tinley in March, and that was I went there just to experience it, because I went to reptile shows when I was younger, but it was always as a keeper, so I never paid any attention to what went into vending and like the kind of sacrifices you had to make as a breeder. And man, I saw the effort and the money that went into the presentations.
Oh yeah,
Tinley, right? Just the blood, sweat, and tears. And then, I talked to as many of the ball python breeders as I could while I was there. And I asked them, I said, how is the show going? You guys making sales? And the best answer I got from the ball python guys was, well, it could be better. I'm moving snakes, but I have to move them at a lower price than what I was hoping, because I need the space.
Yeah.
And I talked to one of the bigger breeders there and asked them how they did. And this was, now, granted, they were still Sunday. I didn't go on Sunday because I made the mistake of booking my flight for Sunday instead of Monday, which I won't do again. But Saturday, before dinner, it was 4:30. I asked one of the bigger breeders how they'd done so far, and they said they'd only sold 5 snakes, and not any of the higher end ones at all.
Yeah.
And so I just saw so many ball pythons. And then I talked with a couple guys that had no ball pythons. I bought a Sanzinia from it's Cold Blooded Creations. Dylan Hain is the guy, and he had no ball pythons. Yeah, he had actually, I think he had some that he put up for a friend.
Sure,
but he was killing it.
He's probably having a great show.
Yeah. So I looked for him Friday at the VIP hour. He hadn't gotten there yet. Because I heard he was the only guy there that he was going to have any of the Sanzinias, the Western Sanzinias, and that's one of the species I want to get into my collection.
Sure.
And I went and looked for him Friday night, and he's got a friend of his. I forget the guy's name. Very polite guy, taller, thinner, big in the colubrids, into the big colubrids like the cribos and the Asian rat snakes and things like that. And he's like, yeah, I think he's running late, but he's supposed to vend right there. Check back in the morning. The doors open for VIP. I can't remember, like 8 o'clock, I think. And I think I got there half an hour after the doors opened. And Dylan had gotten there, had gotten everything set up. and had already sold 2 of the 3 Sanzinia that he brought with him. And I was just like, son of a.
Yeah.
So I bought the male that was there, and then I went and bought a female from S&J Reptiles. He's been, that's Ian Bissell, or I forget his last name. Pretty big guy in the Sanzinia community. And then I had to go and buy another male from him because that's what was available. And so for Sanzinias, you kind of want to have like a 50-50 ratio. Right?
Okay.
The males don't always, they're so rare to get. You've got to have backup males. So
Yeah.
anyway.
Sure.
So anyway, the point of that was that it's, ball pythons.
Other species are selling.
People, at least right now, might be sick of seeing ball pythons in some levels.
That's
So
yeah.
I'm getting to that point. I went to the show. I didn't, only my friends' tables that I, talked to, I would look at their snakes. The rest of it, I wasn't interested in ball pythons. I want to see what else is out there. But it's a good thing that we do. We all need to have some little variety. And you got to breed it
I
to be
still
able
love
to
them.
do other shows.
No, I do
you
too. I
plants.
absolutely love my balls. My balls are great. I play with my balls every day.
We all love balls.
We all love balls here.
Yeah, that's right.
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, last night I actually stayed up late and made it a point to pick up and hold every snake that I've got. So,
Oh man,
ended
that would
with
take
the
me
one
3
thing-
days.
Yeah, I don't ever want that many snakes, Peter. Ever.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
How many did you say you have just in ball pythons?
Like 350.
Yeah, that's too many for me.
Yeah.
You don't know
I'm
what I
at
mean.
100, and I'm just like, no more.
There's only a few that do have names. Well, I still have the very first ball python I ever got as a 16-year-old kid. She's 19 years old now. Her name's Eden, and she's sitting about 15 feet away from me right now. And that's another big part of this, and that's why I really like the tortoises too. Right? Is that unfortunately, I did go through an incident, a fire, where I did lose some tortoises. But part of keeping tortoises is it's a pet. It's a friend that theoretically you may never have to see perish because they're going to outlive you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, the thought too, like I don't have any kids yet, but the thought of, great grandchildren potentially like sitting on the back of or riding around the backyard on one of these giant tortoises that I hatched out way back in 2024, the thought of that is just so cool. But yeah, even just a ball python, 50, 60 years is possible. And so, that's certainly
ball python that you know of.
Oldest. For most of my time in the hobby, people would reference, I forget the zoo, but it was an animal in a zoo. And I think they would say it was like 49 or 50. But then recently, within the last year, I think there was a pretty well-sourced article, or there was some information that came out that I think it was like the snake was either 60 or 65, a ball python.
Oh,
and it was, and I think the main portion of information that was being discussed in this piece was that it laid a clutch of eggs. So that is now certainly, I know that just from the experience I have now, that that first female ball python that I got when I was a kid, she's just a normal, right? So I'm not going to breed her just because I want to try and keep her alive as long as possible. And what am I going to get out of breeding a normal, right? But they were certainly able to breed for decades and decades, right? They don't lose their ability. So, but yeah, if a ball python could potentially lay eggs at 60 to 65 years old, maybe we don't know the upper
My wife's
limit.
not watching this show because when I pass away, her and the kids are going to have to take all my snakes.
Ooh,
Yeah,
shit,
Partho
that's
clutch.
crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Partho clutch at, what did he say?
At 62.
62. That sounds right. Yeah. That's insane.
That's crazy. And you, in order to supply all these snakes with food, you raise your own rats too, don't you?
Yeah. That's where I make all my real money is the ball python stuff, sustains itself. I sell enough ball pythons to pay for the bedding and the racks and stuff like that. But what pays my mortgage and my truck and all that stuff is selling rats.
So there's your variation right there.
Oh yeah.
Well, I was talking with Tyler and his dad at Tinley, and we were talking about the same thing about getting into various, if you want to look at it from a business perspective, business lines, different species. So I mean, you could get into different species that have like a price stratification and different types of cost models, or you can also get into rats and it seems like the rats always turn into the main business.
Yeah.
And that ends up supporting, the ball pythons. Holly, I know you sell rats and stuff like that too. I mean, is that like, do you feel scalable pressure? You know what I mean?
That's where the money is. That's, like he said, that's how you buy your bedding. I mean, it is a pain in the ass because, it has to cycle up back into the rat business, bedding there and everything else, but you're also feeding your animals.
Yeah.
And then, if you do it good enough, you can buy the bedding for your snakes, and still have extra. It just depends on your customers. Here, I don't have very many, or the ones I do have, it's onesies and twosies, and that gets old, but it adds up.
Yeah. I put a stop to that stuff a long time ago.
Oh, you do bulk. That makes sense. You do bulk orders.
Yeah, like a minimum order for someone to buy off me when I started the business, which was like full scale rats started in. I've always raised rats to feed my own collection, but then I, quit my day job and turned it into a full-time business in like 2018. And my minimum order then was like $50 worth of rats, and it's more like $100 worth nowadays, but that's not, that's the other thing too. It's not hard to get to that level. And unfortunately, the cost of rats is always increasing. And it's like, look, guys, I don't want to charge any more than I have to sell, because I've been on the other side of it, right? If I was paying a certain amount for small rats for like 5 years, and then all of a sudden the price, goes up by 20-30% overnight, like that sucks, right? But
so what do you charge for your rodents?
So this is like Canadians and Americans talking about gas prices, which doesn't really work because at least with gas,
we know about where to adjust at.
Yeah. So for the longest time, I was charging $250 Canadian for a small rat, and now I'm up to $330 for a small rat, and that's just with we all saw what happened through COVID, and now all this inflation on the other side of it. I just got a text from my feed store that I buy all the food and bedding from just last week, saying that the rat chow went up $1 per bag, which okay, cool, it's not that much, but I go through 80 bags of rat chow a month. So that's just boom, snap your fingers, and suddenly I just $80 a month that I didn't have to pay last month, and now I do have to pay. And I try not to nickel and dime and like just whenever I want, just increase the price of rats. But like, I kind of try to do it like once a year, based on a percentage basis of like, oh, in June last year, this is what the cost of a bag of rat chow and a bale of pine shavings was. And now this June, it's up by 10%. So the cost of the rat goes up 10%. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't want to do that. And you lose customers because they just can't afford it. And it sucks especially if you see someone that is passionate about the animals and is enjoys this hobby just the way I enjoy it. And then I have to be the bad guy and be like, hey, yeah, rats are up 10%. And then that's like the nail in the coffin that makes people throw in the towel, right? Because not everybody can raise their own rats. I'm other than my wife, there's not another human near me for like 5-6 kilometers. You guys do the math on the miles. But so I'm in the middle of nowhere, farmland. So I'm able to have this huge rat colony. But there's plenty of people that live in the city and have neighbors. And, you may have a garage in the suburbs, but if you fill it with 500 rats, like the neighbors are not going to be so happy with that. Right. So, but
so I've been in this since 2021 and I have not raised my prices at all. And I need to. I just feel bad about doing it because so we had a local pet store that was selling and she shut down and called me. He's like, can I give you all my customer base? I'm like, sure.
Nice.
Our nearest rat people, I don't even know how close that would be. I mean, it's got to be at least 50, 60 miles away.
Sure. Yeah.
Because, pet stores aren't going to sell them as feeders and everything. So, but yeah, I'm there with you. I need to do something about it. And maybe this is the kick in the butt I need to talk about it to do it.
Well, if you do a good job of keeping track of your costs and have a stack of invoices somewhere, like go and, find an invoice from 1 year ago and see what your cost was and then see what the cost is now. And if it's not even substantially, if it's higher at all for you to buy food and bedding than it was last year, well, unfortunately for the customers, it's time to, and that's the economics 101, right? The cost, when the cost of rat chow is going up for you and me because the cost of fuel and the cost of everything makes everything else go up, right? And it's only the end user that really gets affected by that. But there's so I can't, and like you said, you feel bad, I feel bad because I don't want my prices to be the nail in the coffin that takes this hobby away from somebody. But I have to think of myself too, right? If it's going to take the hobby away from me, then I've got to up the prices, right? But
Yeah.
All
So
right.
you got to make a living.
Yeah.
We all need to do that. So does anybody else have any more questions?
I just got one last question.
One last question.
I know I dominated the conversation tonight.
No, you have not. You're just fine.
All right. Excellent. Hopefully Jamie feels the same way. But anyway, my question, where do you see the market going? What is on the horizon in the next couple of years? I know it's kind of a broad question.
It's a broad question.
Like what are your feelings on it? I mean, 2024 supposedly was the first year the ball python industry ever contracted.
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, it's done this before, but never to this degree. Right. But
I mean, are you seeing any signs of anything? I mean, you didn't sell any snakes, so are you like, I'm gonna produce a fewer clutches just to, because I feel like demand is a little weak right now.
Even if that was the decision I wanted to come to, it's too late for this season, because it's like, pretty much if I just totally stopped pairing right now, all the females I've been breeding are still going to go. But I don't feel as bad about the not doing so hot at the show, because I have been doing good amount of sales just over the last couple months, just through Morph Market and stuff like that. But it is so hard to say what is going to happen. I don't worry about, like I've said, so I just built this building, right, and spent all this money,
Right.
you know, building this building, and I have another friend that was doing something similar, building a building, and she was like, is it, you know, because I was further along in the process, and she was like, should I do this, like, you know? And I remember telling her that regardless of what's going on in the world, I'm going to be in that building cleaning bins. If there's, you know, nuclear mushroom clouds off in the distance, I'm going to still be enjoying myself, my life in this building.
Gonna hold your balls one last time.
Right, right. But when I said that to her, it was a joke. And it's not so funny of a joke anymore that the world, not just Canada, not just the US, like literally the whole world is in, you know, I'm not that old, but there's a lot of turmoil happening all over the world, and it's going to affect everybody. And for now, I am going to just keep breeding snakes and breeding rats and selling both. And, you know, if one day all of a sudden every single one of my rat customers is like, oh, I can't afford to buy these anymore, and then obviously by that point I wouldn't be selling snakes either. Like there is no other life for me than doing this. So if it gets to that point where the whole industry, the whole reptile industry is like collapsing, that means that everyone in the world is going to be having like the hardest time of their life. Not just people in the reptile business, all types of industries would be shutting down. We could actually be at war with each other. And no, I don't think so. But, you know, either things are going to get better globally in the whole world or they're not. And that's what I've learned over, you know, since COVID with this hobby and this industry is like, that whether you like to think it or not, this whole hobby is very much tied to the global economy, the rest of the economy. If money needs to come from outside the hobby for people to invest in stuff in this hobby, right? Yeah. So if suddenly that source of outside investment cuts off and the whole thing implodes, well, then we've got bigger problems to worry about, right? So I think for now, while people still have money in their bank accounts, things will keep trucking right along. Maybe less people will be breeding ball pythons in, you know, by the thousands every year. And yeah, I think if the whole hobby goes tits up, then that means the whole world has gone tits up. So I'm not that worried. I'm going to just keep breeding snakes and rats, and maybe, you know, that's the thing I'm with both sides of things. I'm at the absolute maximum limit of what one man can do in terms of just my time of cleaning rats and snakes. So I can't really get any bigger on one side or the other. So I'm happy with
to help you out.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm afraid if I did that, they would hate reptiles because they've been forced to pick up snake shit. You know,
family farm. I was raised on a farm. I don't hate farming, but I don't know if I would ever go buy dairy because that's just hard work, and I like to be lazy sometimes. Sure. Yeah.
I'm not too worried. I'm gonna just keep trucking along here, and if everything falls apart, then means everything is falling apart. So
right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it. And if you want to wait backstage, shut down. He's in training. I'm so proud of him.
You heard it here first, folks. Ball python industry is going to be the last to fall. Peter Williams Reptile. You can follow him on Instagram.
Right.
Everybody's freezing up now. The internet's going crazy. So yeah, thank you very much for coming on the show. Go check out Peter Williams Reptiles. He's a pretty big operation up there in Canada. So there you go. Thank you, man.
Yep.
Thanks for watching.
Good night.